But I just want to get to the lawsuit. So like they're suing you for defamation.
For things that I never said, which is they know that this lawsuit, this is why I called it a PR strategy. This lawsuit was filed for the press, right? Because she just lost her defamation case against 2 journalists in France. And now everyone was reporting, wait, you said that this was the big case that proved, or you presented it as if you were suing them on this claim of you being a man or a woman. And now you've lost that in France. This is your home territory. What's going on? And so I think she called the lawyers and were like, just file a lawsuit because it's very sloppy. The points run into one another. Like first they argue that I'm doing it for money. Then they make the argument that I was fired for speaking about it. So that doesn't make any sense. It can't be both. And it's a bunch of stuff that I didn't say. They're behaving like mainstream journalists where they'll take a couple of words that I said, like gangster, criminal and gangster, but then they add their own sentence to it. And they're like, she accused her of being a criminal and a gangster. So it's very sloppy. And what they're doing is they're just biding their time. They don't want the world to look, which this was a very bad mistake, a very bad way to go about it, but they want the world to believe that she has a claim against me, that we're suing, therefore, because this podcaster lied. But it's way too late. I mean, it's everyone is aware of what's happened. This only made the series go viral. Now it's going viral in Asia. I'm getting all of these emails from people in China saying this series is going viral. They're not even on YouTube, so I don't know how they're watching it in China. But it was a mistake because obviously now people are going, okay, something must be true. A president of a foreign country does not sue a mom that does her podcast in her basement because she spoke something that was not true. Like there's clearly something that they want hidden. And so everyone's taking a closer look at the series.
Yeah, that's not the way to hide things.
Right.
The way to hide things is say, poor Candace, nice woman, obviously mentally ill. Mm-hmm. Come on now. Mm-hmm. That's the way to do it. And sophisticated liars do that.
Right.
So it is interesting. They're responding in a way that clearly is driven by emotion and fear. That's my read. I don't really know why they're responding, of course, but looking at it it's so interesting.
And there is something also that the way that they're going about this, going after the journalists, thinking that America is the same sort of a beast as France is, and that, well, we have said that you can't ask us any questions, we'll sue you for cyberbullying. There is something cyberbullying, whatever the claims are here, but there is something about it where once you really arrive at a truth, what I find the reaction is for the people that are incensed by the fact that you're presenting that truth is I'll impoverish you.
Yeah.
And I've seen this over and over again. It's like, okay, she told the truth, but our response to that is going to be demands that she get fired, right? She should lose her livelihood for speaking the truth. She should lose, and that's why Jake Tapper, I don't know if you've seen it, you probably haven't because it's Jake Tapper, but he sits down with Tom Clare, who is a lawyer on this case, and Jake Tapper is doing the absolute most to make this just the easiest interview for Tom Clare. He's sitting across from him and he's like, she's deranged and she's crazy and she's a conspiracy theorist. Jake
Tapper said that.
Jake Tapper, but so much so that people in the comments were like, now I want to watch the series. His own viewers thought this was just so over the top. But then he turns to Tom Clare and he asks him like a basic question. He's like, what evidence did you present to her that Brigitte's a man? And Tom Clare can't answer the question. He's like, you can read the claims. It's extensive. And, we told her that she was a woman. They never presented any evidence. We went to them before we published the series. We were in touch with Tom Clare of Clare and Locke. We sent them a list of questions. We said, look, we won't even do this series if you answer these basic circle yes or no questions. Was Brigitte Macron, the first lady, born a woman? That basic of questions. Did she ever live as a person named Veronique? Before the transition, temporarily, Brigitte lived as a person named Veronique. They refused to answer these yes or no questions. Obviously, if you're going to prove actual malice, you have to present to the court, it's obviously a very high bar that's been set, which I don't necessarily even agree with that bar, by the way, New York Times versus Sullivan set. But obviously, you have to prove that I acted, I knew the truth, and I acted.
That's exactly right.
I was desperate to get to the truth and said I would stop doing this series. We also offered for me to get on a plane and fly to France to interview, to get Brigitte's side of this. I want to make sure I'm not colored by having read Becoming Brigitte and reading the series. There could be another side. And it was essentially a big F you, and said Tom Clare comes back. She doesn't have to answer your questions. She doesn't have to prove to you.
So they retained Tom Clare and Libby Locke then, or Tom Clare. So Tom Clare and Libby Locke are married. second marriage for him. But I know them. And they have a law firm, I believe, in suburban DC and Virginia, and that specializes in making people shut up through intimidation. Mm-hmm. They tried it with me. And in a really brutal, cruel way, I would say, to try and just scare you into shutting up. So that itself, I don't think anyone regards Tom Clare as a good lawyer at all. But certainly, his behavior is designed to intimidate you. So the fact that they hired them at the outset, that's the behavior of someone who just wants to scare you into shutting up.
Mm-hmm. And the timing of when they first sent us a letter was actually the end of November of last year. We missed the letter because they sent it to an inbox that we would have never been checking. It was a very weird inbox, where you would go to return a t-shirt. And because we missed that, and I'm glad I missed it because I probably would have been scared. I think they knew, because that was right when I began speaking with Xavier Poussard. And I was in London at the time, and I had agreed to interview him, but nobody knew I was going to do this interview. So what made them suddenly send this intimidating letter?
And Tom Clare sent it?
Tom Clare sent it.
They'd already retained him.
They had retained him, and he sent the letter. And I think that they were monitoring Xavier Poussard. I think they were monitoring either his communications or monitoring him.
How else would they have known?
That he was flying to London to sit down and do an interview with me. And they sent it just a week before I sat down with him.
Well, keep in mind, the subject of your story controls some of the most competent intel services in the world.
Correct.
As a head of state, there are no rules at all, which is enough to make you a little uncomfortable if you think about it.
Yeah.
And the fact that they would hire those two lawyers, by the way, his wife, Libby Locke, is Bill Ackman's lawyer, who Ackman uses to make people shut up.
Interesting.
By sending hysterical letters, screechy letters, threatening to destroy you if you keep talking about the client. I mean, it's really thuggish. You may have noticed this is a great country with bad food. Our food supply is rotten. It didn't used to be this way. Take chips, for example. You may recall a time when crushing a bag of chips didn't make you feel hungover, like you couldn't get out of bed the next day. And the change, of course, is chemicals. There's all kinds of crap they're putting in this food that should not be in your body. Seed oils, for example. Now, even one serving of your standard American chip brand can make you feel bloated, fat, totally passive, and out of it. But there is a better way. It's called Masa chips. They're delicious. I've got a whole garage full of them. They're healthy, they taste great, and they have 3 simple ingredients: corn, salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. No garbage, no seed oils. What a relief, and you feel the difference when you eat them, as we often do. Snacking on Masa chips is not like eating the garbage that you buy at convenience stores. You feel satisfied, light, energetic, not sluggish. Tens of thousands of happy people eat Masa chips. It's endorsed by people who understand health. It's well worth a try. Go to Masa, M-A-S-A, chips.com/Tucker. Use the code Tucker for 25% off your first order. That's masachips.com, Tucker. Code Tucker for 25% off your first order. Highly recommended. Let's just go through, but can we just go through chronologically how this unfolded? So at the core of the story is the allegation that Brigitte Macron is not who she says she is, and that would include her sex, is not what she says it is.
Correct. That she was born a man named Jean-Michel Trogneau. And I'm aware, if you have not watched the series, that sounds crazy, because that was me when I first saw the headline.
Yes. No. I mean...
I was alerted to it by the Daily Mail. I thought it was such a crazy, insane headline, but it was the Daily Mail had published an article saying that, with a video of Emmanuel Macron denying claims his wife was a man. And I just thought, that's really funny. What could possibly be going on in France that the president has to deny a claim that his wife's a man? But something that caught my eye was just, as I was reading this article, they made no effort to debunk it. It was sort of it was that typical CNN, New York Times, so it's so crazy. It's like, okay, but if it's so crazy, just, post some photos of her. Obviously, she's got 3 kids. There's got to be tons of photos of her raising her children. There was nothing. They had one solitary photo. And when you look at the photo, it was very obvious, and this is before I got into the details, that she looks a lot more like the little boy that's on the left than she does who they were trying to purport was the little girl that was sitting on the family member's lap. And so I got into it kind of very organically. I was like, this is weird. What's going on in France that the president has to make a comment on the situation? And then I found a website where it explained it, and I instantly realized there is something here. You don't have any photos of yourself for 30 years of your life. And the 2 photos that you've given have been given to the public from a woman who has quite literally been charged with forging documents. She's a thug. Mimi Marchand, they had to eventually get rid of her. Forging documents, thuggery, things of that nature, of a criminal nature. She's the only one. Everyone's going to go through her to get any information about your past. This is so strange. It's so kooky that you wouldn't just, the defense to this is just, hey, could you show us any pictures of your living for these 30 years? You had allegedly 3 children. Did you guys take any photos while you were raising them? Maybe when you were in the hospital? No, Tucker. There's nothing there.
So it's an amazing allegation, a stunning allegation, a bewildering allegation. But I think the legal and the moral question is, did you give an opportunity? Did you give the prime minister and his wife an opportunity, the Macrons, the opportunity to respond to the allegation before the series ran? So that's my question.
Weeks to respond.
And in what way did you do that? Did you call them? Did you?
Via Tom Clare. It was their lawyer. So they kind of made a mistake. They messaged us first to kind of intimidate us and say, you're working on this thing, or you're talking,
Did they say how they knew you were working on it?
I am not clear, because what was interesting is in that first letter, they included claims of what I said while I was working at the Daily Wire. That was the previous March. So you're responding to something that I said in March. We're now in December. So what triggered you? Clearly it had to have been that I had just interviewed Xavier Poussard and they were aware of it. So then they said, okay, send her out a letter to intimidate her. And obviously getting a letter for most people, you get a letter from a sitting president of France, you're going to go, okay, well, I'm just going to be quiet and not say anything more because I don't want to get involved in this. But for me, it just made me even more curious. And so to be sure, I said, well, I'm glad we have a line of communication established, because I'm certainly not interested in defaming you. I'm not interested in lying. Obviously, I would do myself a disservice if all of this was complete crap. And it turned out that I had been peddling it. So here are my questions. Very simple, yes or no questions. Did you ever live as Veronique? Who is Jean-Michel Trogneau? Refused to answer. They just instantly got...
So you presented the allegation to them, which they, of course, were aware of, that people had made, others, not you, that she's not really who she says she is. Mm-hmm. And you said, can you explain?
Yeah. And honestly, it didn't require much of an explanation. We also asked, can you give us any photos of you living through this 30-year period? Pretty easy stuff. If you're actually concerned and you're going to pretend you're so traumatized and defamed because of this story, I would have been like, yeah, of course, here I am. Here's me in middle school. Here's me on a cheerleading team. Here's me the first day I held my first son. Here's me. It's such an easy thing to debunk that it requires the suspension of common sense to believe that this is a conspiracy theory, because it's so easy to debunk, and yet they refuse to do it. And they're being extremely petty and going after every single person that speaks about it. Now,
have they ever provided that evidence to anybody?
No, that's the point. They haven't.
To this day.
They would have never had to sue anybody, because everyone would have then laughed at them. Like if someone was working on a story saying that I lived as a man for 30 years, I don't need to lawyer up. I want you to publish that story so that I can then come out and say, this person is a psychopath. Clearly, here is the trove of me growing up with my sisters. Here's my middle school yearbook. To the contrary, even when Xavier Poussard, because he has been working on this for 10 years and therefore filing paperwork with the government to get pictures, Jean-Michel Trogneau has a military file. He also filed to get Brigitte's school yearbook, where she's allegedly has a picture, and he won that case and then took it to Sacre-Cœur, which is Sacred Heart, and they said, we're not releasing it. I don't care if you won the case. We're refusing to release this to you. So in every regard, something that would be able to dispel this rumor, even her children, where are your kids in this? If that's my mom and she's so attacked and it's so horrifying that she's got to put, my dad, stepdad on a plane to go speak to the president of the United States, way before then, I would have released pictures of me and my mom. Her kids are all adults. I would have said, here's me and my mom growing up on my first birthday, my second birthday. Please, everyone, leave her alone. They won't do it. It's bonkers to think.
Have the kids spoken in public?
Only one child has ever spoken and called the rumors crazy and upsetting, and that's her youngest daughter, Tefan. And I have a theory about why that is, but again, there's no evidence to supply. Tefan won't go under oath. Tefan won't speak. Tefan won't say, oh no, she just says it's very hurtful and it's not true. And okay, Tefan, well, you have the power to dispel this by just releasing some photos of you growing up. You're a 40-year-old lawyer. It's pretty simple to release some photos of you as a kid with your mom, and they won't do it.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.